This is KLEAN Radio.
Welcome, everybody out there listening to KLEAN Radio on our flagship station, 790 KABC. Maybe also they're listening, Erica, on XM 165 or on our worldwide stream at KLEANradio.com. That's KLEAN with a K. In the studio with me tonight, unless Andrew changed bodies, is Erica Abfab Spiegelman.
Hi, everybody.
An amazing...
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Do you wish people happy every day, by the way?
I like to send a little positive energy, but that's my style.
That is your style. But I just want to tell people quickly who you are.
Okay.
You're an amazing therapist. Therapist?
Yeah, counselor. Certified drug and alcohol counselor. It's a KDAC.
Yeah, you're a KDAC. And you're sober for about 5.5 years.
Yes, exactly.
And you're not a 12-step person, but you're not... It's a funny thing because I always say to you, you're more of a 12-step person than most of the 12-step people I know.
Right,
Because you're extremely spiritual.
Yes.
And you were saying one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah, I really believe through doing this professionally and with my own personal journey that everyone has their own individualized, recipe or plan, and the 12 steps and everything that goes with it. It's great for people. I think it's a great base to understand it, to read the big book, and maybe you could use some of those lessons, and then maybe you'd like to go and use physical exercise as part of keeping up with a healthy lifestyle, or you like doing meditation, whatever it is for you. So I want people to call in tonight and tell us really how they got sober, if it's something that untraditional, if it's not AA, if it is AA, like tell us your story. We want to hear.
And my personal story obviously is that I did get sober. I got sober when I was really young. Not anymore young, because people are getting sober now when they were 16 or 17.
You were pretty
or 13.
young.
I was 22 years old.
That's young.
So it's been about 14 and a half years, and I did it via the 12 steps.
But I think a lot of people feel like if they don't do the 12 steps, or if they're kind of doing something that may be a little different, they don't want to really, come out and say what works for them. When I just want to encourage people to, if it works and you're sober and you're living a good life and, you're really thriving, and even if you're struggling, whatever it is, tell us your story, because I know other people will probably relate.
And it works for you. I mean, you're 85% healthy, and it's the 15%.
I'm not perfect.
It's progress, not perfection, as they say.
Yeah, of course, I'm not perfect. But yeah.
But give us a call. The number here is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. We're a show about addiction and recovery and the
life after and the life before. And
you're stealing my lines.
Yeah.
And I just want to, quickly, and one of the things I actually want to talk about tonight, when I was drinking, my father would never give me the car, right? He used to say to me, the car is a weapon. Mm-hmm. And
which it really could be.
When you're drinking and driving, it's a weapon. And the reason I started thinking about this was, last weekend you had with the actress, I can't think of her name right now.
Reese Witherspoon.
And
her husband got it.
And her husband. And then this weekend I saw Jeffrey Wright, the actor. He's an amazing actor. He was in Bond and Basquiat. He got arrested. And constantly you keep on hearing people say, well, people have money. They shouldn't drive drunk. And,
they could get a taxi. They could get a driver.
And people don't really get this concept that, you could start out the night not planning on driving drunk.
Right.
Most people when they leave their house that night aren't saying, I'm going to drive drunk at the end of the night.
That's not their intention.
Right. Something happens, and I wanted to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
From the first drink, and this isn't just to be an alcoholic. We're not against alcohol. I'm not, I'm not
we're not saying don't drink.
I'm not part of we're not part of the temperance movement, but
But something does happen to the brain when people ingest alcohol. We metabolize it into our bodies, our livers, and there's something that goes on where all reason, the part of the brain where reason goes on and where it fires, it kind of dissipates, and it's kind of it kind of goes away when you start to drink. And there's something that actually switches, and it's been scientifically proven. So even if you have the intention that you won't get in the car, you won't drink and drive, you say to yourself, I'm fine. I'm really not buzzed. I only had 2 drinks, 3 drinks.
It's like that commercial, buzz driving is drunk driving.
Right. But I know so many people that say, I just had 1 or 2 drinks and I went out to dinner and I got pulled over. And I mean, you know what? That happens all the time.
This is... Again, we're not saying to people don't drink. We're not
but we're saying not to drink and drive, because even if there's a slight chance that you're impaired, that your vision's impaired, or maybe you're a little slow or whatever it is, even if you're not wasted, you still are affected by the alcohol. I mean, it's a fact.
You know, and Rand, who directs the show, gave me an interesting statistic that before people, the average is before you get your first DUI or DWI, you have driven drunk at least 80 times before the first time you got caught.
That's an incredible number.
You know,
I mean, that seems pretty high. And I'm sure it's true.
Right.
It's just.
And, you know, 1.5 million people a year get arrested for drunk driving. That's a lot of people. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I don't want to get political. This isn't a show about politics. We're on my favorite station, which is KABC. And, you know, it's a very political station. But this isn't about, to me, you know, my father's saying to me, I don't want to give you a weapon.
Right.
And, you know, with guns, you know, that's the huge thing right now is we want to take away guns, we want to take away bullets, we want to take away everything. Nobody is saying, hey, let's take away cars.
No, but we're trying to think of a way where we could, you know, save lives. And like I was saying to you before we came on to air, I was saying, what if this is just a question I want to pose to our audience also. What if we were to, you know, put a breathalyzer in people's cars and they can't start, which they have this now. They can't start the engine unless it blows a .00.
I'm totally against that, but
I think that may work.
It's infringing on me, but that's a whole other story. Give us a call. The number here is 800-222-5222. We're here to help. There are a lot of people, and I think it's important to say this, that don't know they can get help. A lot of people out there do have health insurance.
Right.
They don't realize that, you know, treatment is actually affordable.
And it's covered, you know. I mean, I work at several treatment centers, and most of all the ones I work at now, health insurance covers. So if you guys are, you know, you have health insurance and you're not sure whether you're covered for treatment, either outpatient or inpatient, you know, give us a call and let us, you know, run that check.
So what happens, by the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. It's KLEAN Radio. That's KLEAN with a K, not Temperance Radio. We're not against this, you know, but I was at the Dodger game the other night.
Yeah.
And I took a lot of alumni from KLEAN. So we were like 25 people at the Dodger game. It was amazing. And all of us sober, having a great time.
Right.
And in front of us, the whole section, I mean, it was like the Budweiser section or whatever section of Dodger Stadium. And I left the game a half an inning early. And I didn't leave a half an inning early because I just wanted to go home.
Yeah.
But a good idea, think about it, was to leave a half hour early because I don't want to be on the road as everybody else is getting.
That's a great idea.
So that's, you know, I hate, it's amazing that I have to give a tip so I could avoid drunk drivers. I
think that's great that you're saying this because, I mean, at those games, everyone's drinking. I mean, I would say probably 80% of the crowd is drinking and they're getting in their cars and driving away. So I think that's a great idea. Also, I was just curious, how did everybody feel at the game?
It's actually a great question because I when I got sober, I made a decision. And the decision I made was that I wasn't going to not do the things I enjoyed.
Right.
You know, so whether that was like going to concerts or going to games. And it was hard right away. I went to a club when I had 90 days sober.
Yeah.
And I ran out. I mean, I just couldn't handle it at 90 days sober.
I know.
So one of the things I wanted to do was I like taking people that are just getting sober so I could be around them, a couple other sober people.
You're safe
and
also.
It was a bit of a struggle, but the reality is that it's, you know, just, when you get sober, alcohol isn't going to disappear.
Right.
You're going to have to learn how to deal with it.
Right.
And
Yeah, no, but I think that's great. And I think that you being there also provides a kind of a safety net for them, a safety blanket. And I always encourage my clients in the first 90 days not to put yourself in really dangerous dangerous places with dangerous people, an environment that may be triggering. So it's great that you actually held their hand in a way, you know, and took them, and it was, there's someone might say to you though at the game, listen, Judah, I'm getting a little nervous, I'm getting anxious. Let's go.
Let's go outside and talk.
Right.
I have a belief that, you show people how to live life. You don't tell people this is how you do it. It's like, hey, let's go to a concert. Hey, let's go do this sober. So you're showing people how to live life. And I don't think often enough that gets talked about is that you shouldn't be doing this alone, certain things.
Right. But there's not enough people actually doing it like you do it. You actually are taking action and taking them. I mean, a lot of, not to knock, other therapists or sponsors, however you're getting help and support, but it really does help when someone goes with you and actually goes with you to a party for the first time, or a wedding, or a Dodger game, or a concert. Somebody that's safe, someone that could, you could talk to in case you're starting to feel a little shaky.
And I think that's actually very important that we talk about that. Give us a call at 800-222-5222. That's 800-ABC-KABC. I mean, we're talking about a lot of things, but in a sense, they're all linked together.
Oh, yeah.
Peer pressures. I mean, there's a certain machismo, I think, when people are drunk and they want to drive.
Uh-huh.
There's a certain,
It's the ego. It's also, they think they got it and they could, And
I don't want to just say machismo because there's
women.
Right, there's many women that drive drive drunk.
Many women. Yeah. I think it's just, I don't think people take it seriously enough. And I think when you're drinking, the last thing on earth you think is you're going to hit someone or that you're going to get in a car accident. You're more in the moment and you're not really thinking about the future. And that could be very dangerous.
And it's not just, you constantly hear people saying when they're driving drunk that, it's not about you. You're the least person I'm worried about when you're driving drunk. It's the other people on the road that I'm really worried about. Last week the bassist for that band that I can't think of, 3 Doors Down, killed somebody, vehicular homicide. And I'm not worried about him right now.
Right.
I'm worried about the person that he killed and their family.
Right. Well, it affects so many people.
Right. And here's the thing: we're sober, and it's very hard because I know I've done it.
I've done it too.
I've driven. If before I got sober, most of the times I was drinking, I was driving, I was probably drunk, but I can't live in the past because I did it, I'm somehow okay with it.
No, but you teach and and also just by you saying that and for me admitting to that too, we were vulnerable to it, and now we've learned, and now we have a little bit more clarity because we do this now for a living. We help people and we work in this industry. So we also see the residual effects. I see people whose families are affected by it. I had a client that, went to jail. It's a serious thing.
I like how you got lower when you said went to jail.
Well, because I feel like it wasn't necessary if they just didn't get in that car. It changed her whole life, basically.
It's amazing, right? It's amazing that one decision, that one, that in a flick, everything could change.
Everything changed. Her whole family, their family changed, and everyone was affected by it. So,
but there is hope, and that's the biggest thing I want to share. Is if you're out there, and hopefully you're not driving drunk right now. Hopefully, but if you have somebody in your life that this is a worry of, because Reese, I don't want to bring Reese Witherspoon up again, but she got in the car knowing her husband was probably a little buzzed.
Yes.
And how many people out there are getting into cars with people too because they're scared to say, maybe
hey honey, let's get a taxi.
Right, maybe you shouldn't drive. And I don't know where that, I've been guilty of that.
Right, me too.
Where I was on a date. I know in your story it's probably you were on a date too, but I went on a date years ago and the girl was loaded, you know what I mean? And I'm driving around stone cold sober.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, I was stone cold sober, and I'm like, what am I doing?
Oh, well, that's really what you're doing.
I'm a guy, you know what I mean? I was willing to take that ride till I didn't.
Glad you learned.
Right, yeah, that's the thing, and it, so it has nothing sometimes to do with, smarts or
being sober. I guess that's
stupid decisions in Judah's life. But give us a call at 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. And or you could go on Facebook, and we love comments that we get. We get a lot of comments during the week. That's Facebook/KLEAN Radio. I stole your line. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'll do Twitter.
Yeah.
You can find us on Twitter at KLEAN Radio with a K, KLEAN RADIO.
And we're constantly posting, and it's really fun because aside from just doing this, we get to
we love to hear from you guys, and we want to hear what people are going through, the questions they have, the comments. Yeah. Judah and I always discuss, like it's summer coming up. What is it? Are people anxious about, being in the sun, wanting to have a beer? Any triggers? Going on vacations? The 4th of July, Memorial Day. There's a lot of stuff coming up. And we want to hear people's.
Or if you're an alcoholic, just a regular day.
Of course, of course.
And I'm just, because that's.
But we're talking to people that are struggling in the moment with alcohol or drugs or anything else, and we're also talking to people that are just sober and.
Yeah, and it's so amazing that. Because we get to deal with a lot of people that are in early sobriety, and it sometimes it's beautiful to watch, and sometimes it's really sad because when you see it work out for people, it's nothing better, and when you see it don't work out for people, sometimes it's horrifically sad, and people don't always know where to go, and I mean the family members, and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
And I love that we're talking about parties and all that type of stuff because there is nothing better than doing these things sober. I constantly talk to, there's no greater thing when you're an alcoholic and you get sober than doing life stuff sober.
And realizing that you enjoy it again, or that you actually could do it and not need a drink. That's the best feeling in the world.
Do you know how many people say to me, how do you enjoy baseball? Right. And I love baseball. For me, it's just, I love going to Yankee games, but I'm in LA, so I go to Dodger games. And I love it. I love everything.
But let me ask you this. Before you got sober, though, were you worried that when you went back to watch baseball that maybe it wouldn't be as enjoyable?
I wasn't. I was...
I know some people struggle with
That's actually a really good question. I had a hard time watching football That was the hardest thing I had to do, was watch football when I got sober, because I got so emotional. You know, I lived and died by the New York Giants.
Yeah.
And my week was like, dictated by this, and I couldn't do it. You know, I couldn't do it. And I'm not alone. I know there are a lot of guys out there.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Because I had gone to meetings, and I one time heard somebody share about this from they spoke about this, and literally all the men raised their hands saying, I get it. I have a hard time. But for me, going to baseball games, and, I wasn't nervous, but, I had to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And
well, because a lot of people say...
that were sober, though, took me.
That was good.
It was really a cool thing, and I think that's why
you do that,
is because when I had a year sober, I was shown by, my gift was to go to the Yankee game.
That's great.
And watch, the World Series. So that was, and they watched me.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that. And I think that's why that's so important.
Right. I think that's great. But, and why I asked you whether you were nervous or not is because I know so many people that love to do certain things like going to baseball games or watching football, whatever, and they were drinking while they were doing it for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And now they're getting sober. And I know a big fear is, am I going to enjoy it? Am I still going to love it? Is it still going to be a passion? And the answer is yes. It's just, walking through it. And
well, it used to drive me crazy, right? I mean, one of my least favorite movies in life is Natural Born Killers. I absolutely couldn't stand it. Constantly people were saying to me, oh, it's because you weren't high when you watched it. And I'm like, if you need to be high to watch a movie and get it, it's not a great movie. Right. It was...
But that's how people think.
But that's how many people think, that you had, and for me, it was learning how to do those things. It was learning how to do things sober.
Have life experiences sober, like watching a movie.
Right, and I got to tell you, going to Yankee games or going to baseball games or going to concerts sober. I'm going to a concert Thursday night with my girlfriend. We plan on getting there at noon because that's when she wants to go to the concert Thursday night.
What time does it start?
It starts at 7 o'clock that night, but it's general admission, so we're actually going to this concert, and so we could be in the front row to watch the Killers. The
Killers, I was gonna say.
So I'm gonna be open. We're gonna go watch that's what she wants to do, so we're gonna go do that.
Yeah.
But I'm not thinking. I mean, I'm just so extremely stoked about going to this concert.
Well, you're past the point of thinking about.
Right.
But there are a lot of people, I'm sure, going to that concert that are newly sober and wondering,
Right. When I was newly sober, I wasn't doing that stuff.
Yeah.
But, the only thing that drives me, alcohol doesn't drive me crazy anymore at concerts or baseball games. What drives me crazy is people that are on their phones the whole time recording the concert.
Yes.
I'm like, you're actually here.
Well, they're not present.
Yes. And I'm actually a little nervous that I might jump in front of somebody's camera and say something.
Right.
As they're recording the concert that they're actually at.
Maybe
and I want to be
should.
present. And that's the thing, when I would go to these things in the past, when I would go to Yankee games when I was drinking, when I would go to concerts when I was drinking, I don't remember them.
Right.
I have no real memories.
I don't remember trips.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of us that have experienced the same kinds of, kinds of things. Don't remember half the things we do, who we're with, our experiences, and that's why the beauty of being sober is the most intoxicating. And you and I have talked about that before.
And it's amazing. And here's the thing for guys. A lot of times guys, when they start going on dating and they get sober and they're dating, they're very intimidated to tell women that they're sober.
I know.
They're very intimidated to say, you know what, I don't drink.
I hear it all the time from male clients. Yeah.
And
women.
And one of the things I got to say is, at least in my experience from the women's point of view, they're like, wow, that's great. They're like, wow, that's amazing that you're doing that, and not in the condescending way, but they think it's cool, that, hey, you're living your life.
Some people think it's courageous, which it is, and especially on top of that, to be so honest about it shows someone's character, and shows a strong character. So, but there are people out there that are intimidated by it, or they feel like they're being judged. So for those people out there that are, have had these experiences and people have not maybe been so open and accepting,
call Dr. Erica.
No, it's probably because they have an issue themselves.
That's always the case. And
they don't want you sitting across from them pounding beers and judging them.
Right, and it's right away that's not the right person. If your sobriety and you not wanting to drink affects somebody that much, right, then they're not the right person.
I had somebody walk away from my table because I told him I don't drink. He was like,
"Are you sure it was that?"
Yes, I am.
But no, I mean, I've had those issues too.
Maybe not. Who knows?
No, but I've had those issues.
Yeah.
And, so let's go to, we have a call. Let's go to Bob in Laguna Beach. Welcome to Clean Radio, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Yeah, you guys got a great station here.
Oh,
thank you very much,
well,
Bob.
The station, you got a great show. I just want to tell you that waking up and not drinking, and you can remember last night is great, because I remember a lot of times coming home, and I have no idea how I got home.
Yeah.
And it is, it was the worst.
And that sort of defines alcoholism, Bob.
Well, yeah.
I
Tell
mean,
me
Or
about it.
problematic drinking for sure.
That's the
Oh,
definition.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
How-
you start off with one or two, and the next thing you're waking up and you don't remember anything of the night before or how you got there.
Right.
Now you're at home, and thank God you're at home in bed.
And Bob, let me just ask you, because we were talking about intention before. So even if you started out the evening with the intention just to have a couple drinks and it led to not remembering anything, I mean, do you agree with that? That sometimes we just, once the alcohol gets into our systems, it's kind of like we're off and running?
Oh, yeah, there's the German phrase is einmal ist kein Mal. One time is nothing. But it's the second one that'll kill you. And when I go out to a party or anything like that, on my left hand, between my thumb and forefinger, I'll write a big 2 in a magic marker.
Really? That's a good
Yeah,
tip.
to tell
For
me
people
that
that
the second one it's going to do it. And you just need that little reminder, kind of like KLEAN Radio, where you need that little reminder that you just got to get off that train and because it's heading to a cliff.
And we didn't
Sooner
pay
or
Bob
later.
for this call, but Bob, can you hold on one second? I'll come back to you right after the break.
All right.
If you could hold on a second. You are listening to KLEAN Radio. We're on the phone with Bob. And we're talking about a lot of stuff tonight, Erica. We're talking about, and I love that type of call, and we're going to get back to him in a second, about, the
Because he
memories.
relates, you
But
know?
it's memories, and it's I used to, all the time, when I was drinking, I would leave I came up with these precautions that never worked. And if you're out there and you're listening and you came up with these precautions, you probably have a problem. And one of them was I'd leave my driver's license home, my money home, and my car keys home. Okay? By the end of the night, I was always in my car, broke, and I couldn't find my driver's license. This was every single night.
Wow, you took precautions
and
like that?
I did. I tried to. But here's the problem. When you have addiction, when you have alcoholism, no matter what the precaution,
Right.
it won't work.
Right. True.
And if you just tune in, you are listening to KLEAN Radio. We're about to go to break, but give us a call at 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. When we get back, we'll get to Bob and other calls lining up.
Great.
Discussion.
Are you struggling with an addiction that's ruining your life? Want to have a confidential conversation with a professional that will immediately assist you? Do you suspect a loved one is abusing drugs and would like a free drug testing kit and consultation? KLEAN Treatment Center is standing by right now to help those with addictions and the people who care about them. Call 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. Or go to KLEAN Treatment Center, that's clean with a K, cleantreatmentcenter.com.
Welcome back to KLEAN Radio. Andrew's not in the studio tonight.
No, he's not.
Unless he had some major transformation that happened in the last week.
Wouldn't that
we're
be
in the studio
funny?
tonight with Erica Fab Spiegelman.
Hey, everybody.
KDAC approved and mother friendly.
KDAC certified.
KDAC
Mother and
certified.
father friendly.
Mother and father friendly. And give us a call at 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. We're talking about getting sober.
We're talking about a lot of good
things.
stuff.
But one of the things I
Yeah.
want to talk about is we're going to get back to Bob in a second. And it's really interesting because, we're talking about enjoying life sober, and essentially is what it comes down to, and not
Right.
having that anymore. That thing of, what did I do last night?
The regrets.
Who was I with?
Right.
Where's
the
my money?
questions,
Where's my driver's
the
license?
shame, the
Right.
embarrassment, all of that.
And the thing is,
Yeah.
so even if I don't love everything doing it sober, I don't regret it, Yeah.
You know what I say to everybody? It's just it's like if you took away, it's such a worry and anxiety for people when they don't know how their behavior was, or they're not quite sure what they said, how they acted. If you never had to worry about that ever again, assuming that you don't just blow up on people, then your life, you'd have so much more time and energy to do good things in your life than sit around and worry, did I get in a fight with my friend? Did I,
It's
where's
so
my
much less-
license?
it's
I
so
left my
much less
credit card
drama.
somewhere. Where's my car?
Yeah.
I got a DUI. I mean, there's so much more room in your life to actually enjoy it.
So let's get back to Bob. Bob,
Yeah.
welcome back.
Hey, other than did I get a DUI, I could identify with all those things.
And how, obviously you're sober, Bob?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I have a drink, but the second one is going to kill you.
Right.
And that's it. And the thing is, I found that if you tell friends that I don't want to get in a situation there, and they will supply you with club soda and a lemon and things like that, so you can be right there with them having a good time, but they know you're not going to be drinking any alcohol.
I think that's actually a great point, Bob, because essentially what you're saying is to be honest with people. And
help me out here. You know, don't be putting that in my hand. Give me this one, and I'll be right there with you.
But you know what, Bob, you could ask. You know, I go to events all the time, and people say, "Would you like champagne? Would you like water? What would you like?" All you need to do is say, you know, "I'm not going to be drinking tonight. You could take my wine glass away, or I'll just keep, you know, keep
But there's
filling
always
up."
that one person, though. Sometimes what happens is there's always that one person that's a little more than annoying. That's like, come on,
maybe. I mean, if you don't engage them.
Here's my other clue thing.
Yeah.
Is I'll write, if I don't do the number 2, I'll write 15,000 on the palm of my hand in a magic marker on a thing.
And that's the amount of money.
But that's really...
That's how many reasons I have not to take that second drink.
I thought you were going to say that's the amount of money it will cost you if you get a DUI.
Which is the same thing.
But Bob, you know, the thing is like, that's still like, you're really trying to will your way through the night with just one drink. And like Judah was saying before, and you know, I mean, I'm curious to find out what you have to say about this, but Judah tried to take precautions and would hide his ID and would do things because he knew that after that first drink or second drink, all bets were off, kind of thing. So with you, was there any point in your life, I mean, now you say you have a drink, but you try not to drink more than one. I'm sure that doesn't always work.
I do not drink more than one.
Not drink more than one, but you still have a drink.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bob, God bless you, because that would be
That's
pure.
What I'm saying.
That
it's
would
a lot
be
of
like hellish to me. Because for me, if I drink that one, and this is the difference between somebody like Bob and somebody like me, somebody that's that's had problems,
right,
and could stop,
right.
You know, that's the difference. What Bob is talking about, and Bob, I think that's actually a great call. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you for calling. And what Bob's talking about, Erica, is an amazing thing. The difference between a problematic drinker and an alcoholic.
Right.
And somebody, I one time heard somebody define it in an amazing way. Problem drinker out there, right, gets a DUI, gets arrested, goes in front of the judge. And the judge says to the problematic drinker, I'm sick of you guys. I'm sick of people driving drunk. You do this one more time, you're going away for a year. Right? Problem drinker says, like Bob, I don't want that. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to drink and drive. I'm not going to do this. Mm-hmm. Alcoholic, same scenario. I go in front of the judge that says this to me. I'm in my head going, I'm going to jail. That's the difference. An alcoholic will have no way of not getting into, they're going to look at the judge, shake their head, and
or they're thinking the whole time, I can't wait to have a drink.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing is, no matter for me, when I was drinking, no matter what my consequences were, and for me that was like, I'm so anxious right now, I can't wait to have a drink. I didn't care like what was going on, and so that's really interesting. Because,
so if you're out there and you're going through this, because these are dilemmas that a lot of people go through.
Yeah.
Because when somebody is going through issues and they're questioning, am I an alcoholic?
Right.
Am I a problematic drinker?
Am I dependent?
Right. So give us a call, and I know give us a call at 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222, because it's very confusing, Erica.
It is, and people also, they have these consequences, like Bob was talking about, like you were, where they black out and they wake up the next morning and they say, do I have a problem? I mean, this is happening more and more often. I also, I have a brother who's in college, and I know him and his friends, they're drinking a lot. And there's, at that age and what's going on right now in our colleges, everybody is heavily drinking, and there's pills and there's a lot of other stuff going on. And I think these kids wonder, do I have a problem? Or is like everyone taking Adderall? Is everyone, because it becomes normalized on these campuses, everyone is using pills and drinking.
And I don't want to say, has this always been going on?
Or
is it just
since I was in college, it was going on. But I think even now,
that was a long time ago. You were in college.
You want
about 35 years ago.
Date me? Yes, we're gonna reveal.
Yeah, no, but you're right.
It was a good 12 years ago. I'm 33 years old.
And I think as a society, we become very accepting of certain things. I think we've become very accepting. Somebody gets a drunk driving accident. Somebody gets a drunk, and we're so unaccepting of certain things in our culture. It's so very idiotically odd,
right?
But 1.5 million people, 30 people get killed a day because of drunk driving. 30 people a day.
Okay.
You don't hear anybody out there saying, let's ban cars, let's ban gasoline.
Right.
Because...
And that's the only ones that were reported.
Right, that's exactly right.
Yeah,
all
and
of
that's a high number.
You're right, more people get killed with cars than they do with guns.
Mm-hmm.
And I love organizations like MAD. I love these...
So what do we do? Bring awareness into schools, educate, the kids when they start driving?
Stop being okay with certain things.
Okay, well
it's okay, and this is just me. It's okay to say something's not okay.
Yeah.
And I think we get beaten into sometimes saying, well, that's not right.
We give excuses.
They should be able to go get help. Hey, if some guy is brandishing a gun in the middle of the street, nobody says, hey, let's talk to him. Hey, let's give him a second chance.
So you're saying you're calling it like a weapon. I mean, you're going back to the whole...
Driving drunk is a weapon that could kill a lot more people than a gun.
But the thing is that we don't know if the person next to you has had a couple drinks or hasn't,
But that's not... I'm talking about once you get caught, once you get arrested.
Okay.
And our director, Rand, had a great point to me when we were discussing this topic today.
Yeah.
If you get a DUI, you lose your car for a month. And comparatively, if you get caught with a gun... That's a lot. They don't just go, I'm taking your gun.
I think a month may be too short.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah,
a month would be a great start. Try getting a month passed first, and then we could work on 2.
I know.
But that's a huge, that's a huge thing, and we become so open and so accepting of saying, it's you have these, God bless. I love, Robert Downey Jr. and I love certain people, but I am a little more staunch on the it's okay to put people in jail. Just because I went through something and thank God I didn't kill somebody doesn't mean that if somebody's brandishing a weapon, which I consider a weapon, a car, when you're driving drunk, doesn't mean we should be less on them.
Right.
Because they're diseased.
Right.
And... Yeah.
Even if they're not an alcoholic, okay, they're just they're a college kid that gets in the car after throwing a party, whatever it is.
Because there has to be sometimes certain consequences.
Right, it's the consequences.
Right, and so if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Clean Radio. The number here is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. And the reason I get very passionate about this is because I'm conflicted still with this, because I am sober 14 and a half years. And I did do it, Erica. Yeah. So
I did do it too, Judah.
Right. And
I was right there, I think most people have.
And it's really hard for us because but let's go. We have a call. Let's go to Jeff in Silver Lake. Welcome to Clean Radio, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, thanks you guys. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Of course.
My comment was it's a great subject and it's really important and I'm glad that a lot of our views have changed. When I grew up, I'm 43. So growing up, in the mid 70s and 80s, my parents just drove drunk all the time. My dad and my stepmom. And, I just thought it was normal when I was a little kid that you took alleyways to get from one side of the San Fernando Valley to the other.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because that's just what my parents did, and it was just normal activity for me to make sure that my dad wasn't passing out, and I would shake him to keep him awake while we were driving on the 101.
Oh, my God.
That was just and that was just a normal thing. That's just what I thought all adults did.
Wow.
I would just mix drinks for my parents, and then walk my dad around outside to air him out a little bit and then put him in the car. And
almost like he was a dog.
Almost like he was a dog, exactly. He would be looking for his keys. I would grab his keys for him and put it in the ignition and start the car for him.
What a horrifying experience, though, for you probably, even though you didn't know better. It's still, you must have been very worried on a very, gut level.
And the question is,
definitely.
Did your father end up getting help?
He did after several DUIs, and then he went away, and I didn't know where he was. And then later on, I put 2 and 2 together, found out he was in county jail for multiple DUIs, and then he finally got sober.
Wow.
And how long? I mean, so and the reason I'm asking that, Jeff, is because I think that is so important to talk about. Is that because we're talking about, we're not trying to come down on people with driving drunk. We're saying you're sick and you need help.
Absolutely.
And there is hope. How old was your father when he got sober?
Oh, let's see. I believe my dad was around 45, I believe.
And
around
Erica,
there.
that's pretty amazing because, you know,
I mean, he said multiple times.
Yeah, right.
Multiple times he was arrested.
and
I mean,
many
this is-
people that
yeah.
are, you know,
Definitely.
are we constantly hear about habitual drunk drivers, people that have had 3 or 4, you know, drunk driving arrests.
right, I
But the
know.
thing I want to talk about that I like what Jeff's bringing up is that if his father eventually did get help.
Yes, of course. But
Yeah.
but Jeff, a lot of people that were, you know, a lot of children whose fathers and mothers, you know, that was normalized in your home. I mean, you didn't know any better, you didn't know any different, but on a really instinctual level, you probably knew, I'm a little scared. I don't want my dad to drive again. Something's going on, something's wrong. And
Yeah.
I want more communication to go on in families, and so that, you know, most of the time, I mean, it sounds like you're not mirroring the same behavior of your father, but sometimes.
It's a good question, actually. Did you mirror the same behavior as your father?
I'm assuming no, but yeah, let's ask him.
Definitely. No, I definitely did. I mean,
You did?
I'm a addict in recovery.
Uh-huh.
But yeah.
Okay.
You know, I thought that I was behaving differently because I was using different substances. So I was driving under the influence of different drugs.
Right,
not
because
drugs,
you know what?
alcohol.
I love that you're bringing
you
that up.
changed
because,
it just a
because
little.
because we're constantly hearing from people, you know, but when they drive high on you know, let's just say marijuana, that I'm a
Right.
better driver.
They justify it.
We often hear this.
Yes, all the
You know,
time.
I'm like, you're going 20. You know, that doesn't mean because you're going 40 below the speed limit, you're
or
a
you're
safer.
impaired. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
you're not as, you know, your motor skills are slower when you're smoking pot. I mean, no matter how often you do
Sure.
it. Yeah.
And then, you know, the drugs I chose to do were of a different sort that would make you stay up for many hours at a time. And so I just figured I was more vigilant.
Right.
And this is,
Yeah.
you know, I love that
When you
you're
probably
bringing this-
hadn't slept for days.
And
you
Jeff,
know?
I love that
I
you're
hadn't
talking
slept for
about
days,
this.
but I was very alert and very aware of things that I thought were going on that actually were not.
That's
Actually, right.
And again, we're not, you know, this isn't, if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio. We're not about not drinking. We're not about, you're going to do whatever you want to do. But we're saying if you are doing these things, there is hope. And I love that Jeff is talking about his father, who constantly got in trouble with the law because of DUIs, but he got sober at the age of 45.
And Jeff also,
And Jeff
is
also
a
got
story of
sober.
hope. So that's
Right, and
yeah.
that's really amazing. I just want to thank you so much for the call.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Jeff-
Thanks, you guys. I love your show.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Jeff.
All right.
I think that's amazing, you know,
Yeah.
because I don't want to sound like, you know, you're listening to Clean Radio, and we're so about addiction and hope and recovery.
Yep.
And I don't want it to sound like, you know, we're like saying, don't feel safe to call, don't feel safe to talk. But
Right.
here's the thing: there's so many people, and I'm speaking for myself. When I was drinking, I was so confused.
Yeah.
I was so hurt. I was so damaged that getting on the phone, you know, that $1,000,000 phone.
Oh, yeah.
You know, to say to somebody, I'm in trouble.
I need
don't
help.
know what to do.
Yeah.
That was before I got sober, and that was even after I got sober.
Uh-huh.
You know, I heard somebody say one time, you know, for an alcoholic to get on the phone and say, I need help, is one of the hardest things in the world to do. They are almost constitutionally incapable of getting on the phone and saying, I need help.
Or saying that to someone face to face.
Yeah.
No matter how you do it, saying I need help and actually admitting that you're human and that you have a problem was the toughest thing I ever had to do. And I know other people obviously struggle with that.
And I want to talk about that quickly.
Yeah.
By the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio, give us a call at 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. You're a beautiful girl, Erica
Thank you.
Spiegelman.
Yes.
You also happen to be very bright.
Thanks.
And one of the things I'm sure people constantly, you know, I was 22 years old when I got sober. I had
Yeah.
like lowered all expectations. Nobody was saying to me when I was 22, where are you going to college? It was, where are you going to rehab?
Right.
But you,
right.
on the other hand, you know, you were successful. You went to college. You graduated.
My path was a little different.
Right.
yeah.
The outsides, people
Yes.
would look probably and say, wow, it's looking, you
Right.
know, how could you be an alcoholic?
Right. For a little while, that was the case.
Right.
You know, I presented a certain way. And if you looked at me externally, I had a smile on my face at all times. But internally, I was suffering. I mean, towards the end, it was so difficult for me to admit. I knew myself I had a problem. But Judah, we talk about this all the time. You know, I was in denial for a little while, like some people are. And then, you know, my family started catching on to my behavior was changing. I wasn't as happy. And they said to me, like, do you need help? For a while, I said no.
What did they think it was? Or did they not know?
They knew. My mom knew. My
Okay.
mom my mom she knows me very well, and she knew that I was drinking, and it was affecting my life, you know, in negative ways.
How conflicted were you, though? Because on the outside, things
Yeah.
were going so well.
Right.
in some ways.
Well,
but in the insides, they weren't.
Right. On paper, everything was going
Yeah.
well. In college, graduated, moved to a big city, trying to get a job, all these things. But internally, it was debilitating because I really couldn't function or think about anything but when I was going to have the next drink. So, at the office with the new job, watching the clock, like when is 5 o'clock going to hit so I can run out of here to the bar, and those were the thoughts that became the one and only thought at the end of the day, and that's really not a way to live. So that's why I felt such despair, because who wants to be basically controlled by a thought like that? And I think a lot of people out there are, how can I get when can I score? When can I get the next drink? Or where, and it went on for years until I finally got help. So,
and I love this because, I love that you're sober now, but one of the things I love is about alcoholism and addiction. It doesn't care. It doesn't care what socioeconomic background you come from, what faith you are.
Right.
It's an equal opportunity, as they
what
say.
Gender you are, how old you are, it doesn't matter.
It's an equal opportunity killer.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think is very special about you is we all represent in some ways, when we get sober, different factions,
Right.
and you're Jewish, you're a college graduate, and there are a lot of women out there that are in this struggle. They could be, stay-at-home moms that are dealing with alcoholism,
Right.
that are scared to death. They don't know what's going on.
Right.
When you sometimes have this thing, you don't know what's going on. Lord knows, when I was drinking,
Yeah.
I didn't understand it.
Right.
It's like I didn't understand why I couldn't stop.
Exactly. I didn't know either.
I knew I had a problem.
Yeah.
But I couldn't understand that was the thing that evaded me and was so elusive, was that I couldn't understand why I just couldn't stop.
But that's where I think when you talk about it, I could feel for you like the hopelessness, because when you don't know why it's going on, you don't. It's almost like the education. Like as soon as I learned what was going on and I wasn't alone, it made more sense to me. I didn't feel like so hopeless. I felt like there's hope.
Right. And so hopefully out there, there's, we know a lot of people are listening, but hopefully somebody out there, whether it's on the radio, whether it's on, online or on XM that's listening, understands that they're not alone.
Right.
You're not alone right now. And I know sometimes it can be scary to get help.
It is.
You could give us a call that it's not on the radio show. You could give us a call at 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. It's confidential. It's absolutely free.
Right.
And one of the things people if they're deciding to go get help, not just rehab, psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, don't realize that their insurance might actually cover this stuff.
Yes. These days, seriously,
it stopped for a while.
It stopped for a while, but a new law passed, I think, last January, where now most of the treatment centers are covered by insurance and multiple insurance companies. So, call them up and find out, and have them, run a background check for your insurance and just see.
But your background check, bad word. I'm joking. Just check it out.
They could check it out. Yeah, absolutely.
And because most people don't realize that. I have health insurance. I don't even know.
Right. Right. No, and also for people, we've talked about this too, is if you're intimidated by a certain model of treatment, if you're intimidated by the 12 steps, or you don't want to go to a treatment center that, has tons of individual therapy or whatever it is, there's a place for you. There's a path for you. I am a strong, I for my own individual path, like I'm a strong believer in everybody could find a way. There is a way to get sober and live an honest and wonderful life. You don't have to be intimidated by any of this other stuff.
And one of the things I actually want to say is that you're a good confidant of mine.
Yeah.
And constantly I get a lot of, women that call me up that are going through a horrible time. And it's okay to get extra help plus, it's okay to go to the 12 steps and get extra help.
Right.
And I'm constantly saying to people, and I love it when people disagree or argue with me and I'm like, just read the literature. It says sometimes this might not be enough.
Right.
Like if you're
I love that you're saying this,
if
though,
you're
because
sober and you're struggling, like I was for many years, there's other, whether it's psychiatry, it could be, it could be the gym, it could be whatever it is.
Right.
But give people a call that might be able to help you out more with this. And that number is 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. I'm in the studio tonight with Erica Abfab Spiegelman.
I'm so happy to be here.
And one of the things I want people to know is you're a strong woman. And but yet you were confused too.
Yeah.
And so this has nothing to do with that stuff. And I think it is hard for women sometimes.
I think a woman has a lot on her plate. There's there's women out there that have kids, that have a husband, that need to run a home, that
have
have
lost
jobs.
their husband, that have, you know.
Well, I mean, there's so much, not, for men also, but I think women have a lot of emotional responsibility also. And so for them to ask for help, when at the end of the day they're taking care of everyone else,
right.
it's a little tough. And how do they have the time? And they can't just step out of their life for 2 weeks or a month or 3 months.
And we constantly get that, by the way.
I know, I hear it
And
all the time.
We hear that all the time from women that are seeking treatment. It's like, you know, they're like,
I can't leave my work or my
right.
family or
and I hate to be harsh in those moments, but say you weren't really there anyways.
Yeah,
and
you're not present. So what's the difference?
You weren't present. So is rehab really going to kill you? You know, it's going to be so great if you worry about yourself and take care of yourself that you can be healthy eventually for your family.
Yep, and it's just a little like blip of time in the whole scheme of your life. Like if you look at the, you know, if I have women that come in, they have young children, and I say to them, get help now so that when your children are older, you're actually there to watch them grow.
What's their first reaction when they say that? Do they get turned off?
No, actually, they realize that that's the truth. You know, I mean, I think it's their excuse a lot of the times. And, you know, it's really hard for women to think that, you know, a 5-year-old could live without them. But that the truth of the matter is that 5-year-old will have more problems in their life if their mother is not present.
And they were living without them pretty much anyways because they weren't really present for the ride.
And just to add on one more thing, the children are attuned to the energy of a mother that's really not there. So
you're big into the energy thing.
I am, because, you know, kids at 3 or 4 or 5 years old understand if their mother is not looking them in the eye and actually holding their hands and being there. If she's off, you know, stumbling around the house. I mean, there's a different energy that goes towards these children. You've seen the progression of the women that have gotten sober. Oh yeah.
And get to live
the rest of their lives being emotionally present and capable and responsible and loving. You know, I mean, to have a family is to, you know, you want to love them and love them the right way. So you have to love yourself. So I think that's, you know, what it comes down to is self-care.
So you're constantly emailing and talking to people. Let's give out your email address, by the way, just so people, you know, because this is one of the most terrifying sometimes things to have to admit. And I don't even know sometimes. I you know, last week we had an amazing caller who was going into detox the next day.
Yeah.
And he like literally made that decision that like 20 minutes before.
Really?
And he had called in the show. He heard us on XM, and
that's very cool.
The courage that it takes for people to say it's so much easier to just keep on living. Not easier because it's not, but it appears to be. You know, one of my closest friends always says, in every great story, the hero walks in the unknown. You know, that's every great story. The hero walks in the unknown. And he constantly says to me, he's been a guest on our show. It's Tony Dennison. He's been on the TV show, Major Crimes. Great guy. And he always says to me, be the hero in your own story.
I love that.
Walk into the unknown.
Walk through the fire, you know?
Right. Because so many people, you live in this, you get comfortable and uncomfortable.
Right.
You know, and I hate these cliches, but the cliches are cliches because they're mostly true.
Yeah. I mean, the spiritual growth comes from being uncomfortable. Right? Walking through, I'm sure you could agree with this, that the growth that you felt yourself is walking through the unknown for you.
I got to tell you, the greatest things of my life have been
a challenge, right?
Yeah. I don't, you know, I was talking about this the other day with somebody at the treatment center, and I don't really pretty much anymore tell my drunk stories.
Yeah.
Because I find that my sober stories are so much more fun.
Thank God you have so many great sober stories.
And
I mean, that's what comes with time.
Right. And that's what I often say to people. It's because, you know, your first Yankee game, like we were talking about, is going to be hard.
Right.
Your first Giant game, your first concert.
But when you get through it,
all of a sudden you're building sober memories.
Totally.
You know, and you're building this whole new sober database.
And you're building a muscle, the strength. It's like any other muscle.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, my first Yankee game might have stunk. I don't know. That was actually great because it was the World Series, you know, but you know, this Dodger game, the memories that I have, I got to see somebody, you know, a past client go to their first, pretty much baseball game, and he did the funniest thing. And I got to tell you this.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, and he sees this Garcia Parra in Venezuela jersey, and he's never been to a baseball game before, and he goes to me, "Hey, how do I get one of those jerseys with my name on the back?" He didn't realize that he thought that you know, that was Venezuela and that was Garcia Parra, and watching the joy in this guy's face made it, you know, and that's one of the great things about, you know, because so many families are out there listening right now, whether it's mothers, sons, husbands, or people that are themselves, and the joy that, you know, when somebody gets sober and actually starts changing, there's no greater thing in the world. So if somebody in your family is still struggling, give us a call. And that number is 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040 for any sort of issues that you might have.
Yeah, and if anybody, wants, I'm putting together a group for women, and if anyone has any questions, you could find me at ericaspiegelman.com and just leave me a message, and I'll...
How do people spell that?
It's ERICASPIEGELMAN.
Because a lot of people might have spelled it with the E before the I.
No, it's Erica Spiegelman, spelled like that, and that's at... For my Twitter, it's at Erica Spiegelman and ericaspiegelman.com.
Why can't you change it to Erica Abfab?
People ask me, what does he mean by Abfab? It's absolutely fabulous, and it's a TV show, ironically, that it's about these two women that are totally off their rockers.
I didn't know that either. But you also have an amazing column that you write. You blog a lot for Maria Shriver.
For Maria Shriver, and I just ran into her last week, and there's a lot of good stuff going on her site. So
and you're living your dreams.
You can find my articles there. Yeah, you know what? Just like what you were talking about, as you were talking about this, watching people find hope, watching people, find some peace in their life is really a dream of mine. And if I'm able to teach and share and counsel and write a book or write and maybe what I'm writing helps one person, that's my dream.
And what's so important is to say that before you got sober, you had all these skills, you had all these talents. I always say to people,
it was being blocked. It was being blocked and deadened by alcohol.
It's like you're a sculpture, and it's like all these things were inside you, and it's like you got sober and they started chiseling away at the sculpture.
Right.
And the chisels keeps on happening. Your whole life is one big, sculpting this, whoever you're supposed to be.
You're creating it.
Right. And that's the hardest thing, I think, for families sometimes when they deal with their alcoholics or they deal with their people in their lives that are drug addicts. They see these amazingly special people that cannot get out of their own way.
It's so frustrating and hard for these families.
And they're like, he's so smart.
Right.
He's so, and constantly, we're running out of time, but constantly when I was younger, I would always get told, pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
Yeah.
And years ago, I was watching this thing in New York. It was about this homeless people, and it was about an organization that donates clothing. And one of the homeless women goes, people always tell you to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, but how do you do that when you don't have boots?
I know, that's...
And I never forget hearing that. And so many people out there, that's all we're saying is, let us be your boots.
Yes, exactly.
And if you need boots, and I don't mean the shoe kind, and if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio.
I love that analogy.
Give us a call, because we could help you be your boots. That's 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank you, Erica, for helping,
for
coming in tonight.
As always.
I want to thank Steve. I want to thank Mark. I want to thank
Steve,
Patrick. And I want to thank Rand. I want to thank everybody out there that listens to the show.
Yeah.
Go to Facebook/Clean Radio. That's Facebook/Clean Radio. That's Clean with a K. You could private message us. You could, post on we constantly are getting posts. We're constantly talking to people, and that's what makes it so much fun. Even after the show is done.
Yeah, we'll address the questions right away too.
And we get amazing questions. Never be scared. And even if you might disagree,
we welcome that also.
Yeah, please call in or please, Facebook us. And Erica, I want to thank you again.
Thank you, Judah.
I want to thank everybody out there that's listening tonight.
Have a wonderful night.
On all our different places that we could be heard. I want to thank everybody for being a fan of the show. I want to thank everybody. I just want to thank everybody. If you're driving out there tonight, please be safe. Until next week, discussion continues at cleanradio.com.
Wonderful.
Are you struggling with an addiction that's ruining your life? Want to have a confidential conversation with a professional that will immediately assist you? Do you suspect a loved one is abusing drugs and would like a free drug testing kit and consultation? KLEAN Treatment Center is standing by right now to help those with addictions and the people who care about them. Call 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. Or go to KLEAN Treatment Center, that's clean with a K, cleantreatmentcenter.com.